Barbie is directed by Greta Gerwig and stars Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling as Barbie and Ken. This film tells a story about Barbie who lives in Barbie Land with all the Barbies, and Ken's there, and they're all played by a bunch of actors, but they all have the same name to their genders or types of dolls that they are. Like the Kens are all Kens and the Barbies are all Barbies. And when Barbie finds out she has flat feet now, and finds out that whoever has her in the real world is thinking bad things about her life, she goes to the real world with Ken, Ryan Gosling, to try and find that kid and make their day. And along the way they come across the reality of life and how hard it is over there, and come to find some shenanigans going on once they come back to Barbie Land, and they're just, things are not right. Now, Greta Gerwig is a director that I hear a lot about. I hear that she's a fantastic director. I have not seen Lady Bird, I have not seen Little Women, but I heard good things about those films and of Greta Gerwig as a director. So this is my first time seeing any film of hers, so it gets me interested to see what her filmography is like before, because in terms of production and directing and how she directs her actors, she did a phenomenal job as a director. She directs her actors very well. The comedic timing is great. The production and set and how she frames everything in one shot is beautiful. You get to see how practical Barbie Land is, and the fact that she used practical effects here as much as she could is just something that you have to admire these days. Nowadays this will be like green screen CGI and it will look ugly, but the fact that she went out of her way to have her crew members actually construct actual sets and do so many visual things in practical ways is just great to see, and it makes the movie look visually appealing in terms of filmmaking standpoint. For me, this is visually a beautiful looking film. The shots are all great, the directing is on point, nothing felt out of focus, everything felt constrained and on the point. A little bit too much, but we'll get to that. But all in all, in terms of directing and filmmaking, pacing wise, comedic timing, and just overall, this is a really good movie in that regard. The actors also do a really good job. Margot Robbie is really good as Barbie, and I really liked what she was able to do with her character later on in the film and having her go through so many emotions. Where in the beginning she's in more of a happy state throughout, Margot Robbie has a big grinning smile every time. I'm surprised her cheekbones haven't turned into like a Harley Quinn or Joker type of face, to the point where the smile is permanent throughout the entire film. But she was able to give a lot of emotional depth to the character of Barbie, which is something that I never thought I would say in my entire life. But Ryan Gosling as Ken is absolutely fun and is probably the best character in the film. His character I found the most entertaining, the most intriguing, the most funny. He's just Ken. He's so much fun to watch. Ryan Gosling gives 100% his all, and every scene with Ken kills me. And all in all, I just found him to be sort of the character that makes this movie for me. And I loved seeing his shenanigans with Barbie in the real world, and how he sort of brings something from the real world to Barbie. It just becomes epic by the end. However, I might seem like I love this film. Unfortunately, I haven't gone to the script. The script is my one problem with the movie. That's how the characters tend to give out its themes and messages throughout, and how they go into long speeches, and how the movie decides to portray these themes. And that's all due to the script. not allowing these characters to show what they want to express. They rather tell it. They rather go to long, elaborate speeches all across the board. This movie is preachy. Really preachy. Probably a little bit more political than the movie about the guy who invented the atomic bomb. How? The movie barely has time to have our characters actually see and express themselves in a visual standpoint. There's only a few key instances in the movie that I can think of where the film decides to do things in a visual manner. And that is of Ryan Gosling. I'm going to have to spoil the movie at this point, so spoiler to be warned. It's when Ryan Gosling is finding out about the patriarchy and is going to try and find jobs that acknowledge the patriarchy, but comes to find out that the patriarchy is sort of a bullshit thing that doesn't matter and is not good, that normal people don't actually use to their daily lives because nobody likes it for obvious reasons. So in that, it's also funny how Ryan Gosling interacts with the real world people in this scene, but that just proves in a visual standpoint how stupid his ideals are, because his naivete is thinking that the patriarchy runs the world because he has not spent a day in the real world. This is his first time. And in that regard, it's really funny because the movie's showing you just how stupid this ideology is and how normal people don't actually use it. Another instance is probably the best scene in the entire movie is when Barbie sits on a bench. She lets her emotions through. She feels all the emotions everyone is having around her. She sees a bunch of people are happy and a bunch of people are sad, and she's crying and letting those emotions out. Then she sees an old woman next to her saying that she is beautiful. The old woman is like, she knows she is, and they both smile. And that's a really good scene and probably the best in the entire film. And then the movie just decides to preach and have characters go on a long speech and express in words instead of visual feelings. The only time that ever worked is by the end of the film when after all the Kens go into a big fight and all the Barbies get their minds back after the Kens brainwashed them so that they could have Barbie Land become Ken Land. After all of that, Ken decides to express himself to Barbie, but it comes after he learned a valuable lesson, and it helps establish his character arc by the end to him become a more independent person, not having to depend on anyone else, not any Barbie, but to actually be his own person and to learn to be his own man. And in that regard, when he's letting his emotions out like that, it's because he experienced so much in the film that it's now taking a toll on him, and he has to let it all out in front of the one person that he trusts the most. And that's one point of the film where characters expressing themselves work. But that's like 3 scenes I could count my hand so far. I could count like 7 or 8 more where the movie decides to preach to you. Another problem I have with the script is how it decides to use Will Ferrell's character, who is the CEO of Mattel. He is superfluous to the plot. He is pointless and doesn't add anything to it. And his antics of yelling, as he always does as an actor in comedy movies, is starting to become stale right now. I didn't find him particularly funny here. I just found the whole character of Will Ferrell here and what he's doing in the film to be pointless, and he adds nothing to the overall story apart from being a slight hindrance to Barbie coming back to Barbie Land. All in all, my problem with this movie is the script. The script really dragged this movie down. It becomes way too preachy with his messages. Not that its messages are completely bad, but how it expresses those messages in a way that is not really intriguing to me or gets me behind the film. They needed to scale back all the speeches and characters just spelling out what they want to say or what the movie wants to say. Have the movie show more than tell. That's what movies should do. You show more than you tell. You could tell in a few instances, but you gotta show for the most part. And I think that's where this movie fails for me. It's one thing if the movie just wants to be a fun comedy, but the movie at these instances wants to be taken seriously. So that's what I'm doing. I'm taking these messages seriously, and I'm taking the movie seriously in that regard. And I just found a lot less enjoyment in it than I probably would have if the movie decided to actually be a fun comedy and actually show more of its themes rather than tell us. But overall, I would still say that I like the film. I'll say it's okay maybe. I just don't love it. And I think that's because of the script. I think the script could have used a lot more work, and it could have our characters feel a lot more things rather than tell them. And cut out Will Ferrell because he's kind of pointless to the overall story and doesn't really add much. If they are to do that, this movie would have been much better. But all in all, I would say that this movie is okay. It's a fun movie. It's fine for what it is. I think it could have expressed its themes a whole lot better than it did. I'm going to give Barbie a B-. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys next time.